Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the series about Camille Flammarion. Today we have in the studio here with us Dr. Vanessa Anseloni from United States. Hello, Vanessa.
Hello, friends. Thank you so much for this moment.
It's a great pleasure to have you here with us today. So let me just show here Dr. Vanessa Anseloni will be talking to us about mysterious psychic forces and accounts of the author's investigations in psychical research, together with those of other European savants. So it's a wonderful to have Dr. Anseloni talking to us here today. And before we start, I'll just very briefly introduce Dr. Anseloni. She is a neuroscientist and psychologist working in the United States. You can tell us for how long now. She's the founder of the School of Emotion, and she's also the founder and former president of the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. She founded and is the president of the Spiritist Society of Virginia and the Spiritist Group of Washington. So Dr. Anseloni is a spiritist medium, fraternal counselor, and coordinates spiritual treatments and workshops. She has been translating and coordinating a team of translators of spiritist books. Among those are Good News and Among Brothers of Other Lands. She's also the co-author of the book The New Generation with the Brazilian medium Divaldo Franco, and the editor-in-chief of the Spiritist magazine. And Dr. Anseloni is also the founder of Kardec Radio. And here I express my gratitude to Kardec Radio for allowing us to bring to you this series using Kardec Radio Studios. So I won't take much of your time. So, Dr. Anseloni, I'll hand it over to you. It's a great pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Munir Gariba, for this opportunity. We want to thank also the British Union of Spiritist Societies and all the friends who have been joining us through the series in 2024 about Camille Flammarion. I want to talk to you heart to heart first, because what we're going to talk about today is about life. Charles came here and gave us successive talks about who Camille Flammarion was. A scientist, a thinker, a man who was thinking about life, and he became a spiritist, close friend with Kardec. Yes, he was French. And he had a wonderful mind. Of all things, he was a man who thinks, who thought about life. Why am I saying this? Because nowadays we don't want to think anymore. I know you do, and I do too, but majority of people don't. We are living at a time on earth when we have almost 7 to 8 times more people on earth than we had when Camille Flammarion was living on earth. We have around more than 8 billion people on earth. When I go to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., there's a counter, and it doesn't stop. More and more people are coming to incarnate. And more people will come, but don't be worried, because we have enough resources and science to take care of everybody. But I would like to share this thought with you. Why is it that nowadays people don't want to think? They just want to blend in. Social media. We are passive, absorbing. Some people are creating content. They are content creators. A majority of us on earth, we are absorbing and sharing. Absorbing and sharing. That's the nature of life. It has always been like this. Now we're in greater numbers. The earth now that has the capacity through its resources to educate. And that's why Kardec Radio is here to help us educate ourselves as immortal spirits. It's the science of immortality. And Camille Flammarion was one of these people who were content creators through books, through his research papers. He was an astronomer who was quite grounded on Earth, to the point that when I go to the book Mysterious Psychic Forces, I I selected a few passages because this book is 500 plus pages. But of all things, he talks about the human being saying, the embryo is formed in the womb of the mother, in the egg of the bird. There is neither heart nor brain. At a certain moment, the heart beats for the first time. Sublime moment. That heart will beat in a child, in the adolescent, in the man, in the woman, at the rate of about 100,000 pulsations a day, of 36,500,000 a year, of 1,825,000,000 in 50 days. So I will stop there because he goes on and on and on. And by his way of writing, his style, you can tell he's unique as a writer, as a thinker. Talking about mediumistic phenomena, just like Kardec. No wonder they were friends and came at the right time. They thought deeply about life. And at this moment on earth, there's a huge conversation about, is there life in the womb at the moment that the heart is beating? Can we get rid of it just because we can? Or should we keep it? This type of conversation, they had it at a time, and he thought deeply, and he says there's a sublime moment there because he knows that there's more to life than just the physical body. Why is it a sublime moment? But Vanessa, aren't we talking about mediumship? But why are we talking about mediumship before we consider our essence? It goes hand in hand with Kardec in the Medium's book. The first chapter, what does he say? There are spirits. We're spirits. We can't talk about mediumship before I accept the fact that I am a spirit. And Camille Flammarion, in all his greatness, he humbled himself to the designs of God and understood that more than the eyes can see, because he was used to see and seek the almost invisible, the stars in the sky, the planets. He was used to think about life beyond this moment. Way beyond. Talking about the fact that today we're here on Earth, and he was one of these scientists who thought so deeply about life that he understood that today we're using a human body here. Tomorrow, I may use another body according to another planet and continue my evolution elsewhere. If you go to the movie theaters nowadays, you will see that besides great movies like The Chosen in season 4 that is playing all over the world, we're also seeing pretty soon the rise of the Planet of the Apes. And you may ask, well, why are people so fascinated about the Planet of the Apes, the rise of the Planet of the Apes. It's a sequel to a previous movie because it's in our subconscious the full awareness that if we do not evolve with Earth, we will be in a planet with apes because emotionally we are that primitive. That at that level we need to be there to push our evolution. So Camille Flammarion in this book, he writes as if he's talking with us. Just like Leon Denis, we've studied here before, Gabriel Delanne, Kardec, they were men who thought about life so deeply that when they understood mediumship is in the realm of the natural laws. So, of course, in many of the chapters of this book, he's going to talk about experiments, research, observations. The titles of the chapters go to that line. He's going to cite his conversations, correspondence with people around the world, including people in the United States who were researching on it as well. There was great collaboration in that regard. There was great exchange of observations. And you and I know that one of the most important things for scientists is observation. As a scientist myself, we know that science depends as its foundation on observation. We can't understand anything without observing it. And observing needs objectiveness. How do I rule out my subjectiveness? It's a major question for scientists. When I talk to psychophysics, people who combine the works of physics and psychology, they talk about, and some of them have already proved that it's quite difficult to rule out our subjectivity. Quite difficult. So, Gabriel Delanne and Camille Flammarion and others, when they are reporting these observations, experiments that they did, that others did, they're bringing us to that world. And I know you know, my know that nowadays people want 5 minute clips, TikToks, reels. We can't study spiritism that quickly in reels. We do it at Kardec Radio, excerpts. But if we really want to study, we need to quiet down, turn off everything around, meditate, reflect, observe. When I opened this book first time, this very book that we're talking about, Mysterious Psychic Forces, one of the most fascinating parts that I bumped into was when he talked about a meeting that he had with other scientists who were renowned in the world, especially in France at the time. And one of them is a man that we admire because he was also married to one of the most fascinating scientists in the world, Pierre Curie. Pierre Curie, who got a Nobel Prize with his wife, Marie Curie. And Pierre Curie, had an opportunity to sit down in a meeting talking about mediumistic phenomena, and he had the opportunity before he died to talk to Camille Flammarion about what he thought of this spiritist phenomenon. And he said, these are his words, I think it is not unscientific to talk about spirit phenomena, to research on it, because we still need to understand it. Pierre Curie made his statement a week or two prior to his accident that led to his death. Probably by now, he's helping the world understand about the real world, which is the world of the spirits. But he exchanged that conversation with Camille Flammarion, and Camille Flammarion, thank God, registered in that book for us in the 21st century. 2 centuries later, here we are, getting to know of something that is phenomenal for us. The Some of the greatest minds in this world who were quite respected by the material science, they were surrendered to the fact that we are more than the eyes can see. So when you and I sit down here at Kardec Radio, listen to what Camille Flammarion is talking about in his book, talking about mediumship, you think that we are crazy. Because we're talking about one of the laws of nature. As Kardec says in the Medium's book, mediumship is nothing supernatural. It's in the laws of nature. So it's part of nature. Well, people don't know of it. That's why they are afraid of it. Like people were afraid of fire, right? When we lived in tribes, if people could light up a fire, they were like, oh, you're a magician. You are, oh, maybe we should worship you. And nowadays, people still behave in this way when we talk about mediumship. But Camille Flammarion, just like Kardec, they are saying, come here, observe with me. So in this book, he is so patient to tell us about the countless experiments, to share the details of spirit manifestations, materializations, hints, and he has pictures on the book showing to us that the materializations that come through mediums, and one of the main mediums he mentions is the Italian Giuseppe Palladino, who was extensively researched by Charles Richet and others, and whom he was able to observe in action. Well, Giuseppa Palladino was quite a missionary, allowing herself to be investigated by these men of science who really wanted to understand the phenomenon and understand where it came from. And then he says to us at other moments of the book that go hand in hand with books that you can get in your phone. If you go to your book provider, their Kindle, whatever it is, you're going to find other books that we would recommend to you besides Camille Flammarion's book about Monsieur Psychic Forces. Books like The Medium's Book, The Medium's Book. You can acquire it and read it here, talking about who we are, our spiritual body, through which mediumship comes and happens. And then when you want to go deeper into this, we would recommend to all who are listening to us, if you want to study about mediumship, study the medium's book. For Vanessa, it's like, well, study with a group. If you don't have a spirit descent, you can connect online. Soon, Kardec Radio is going to provide a study on this book with you on the medium's book. And we also have the books by André Luiz, like In the Realms of Mediumship. In the Realms of Mediumship, let me show you the cover again. In the Realms of Mediumship by the Spirit André Luiz. All the books by the Spirit Doctor André Luiz will lead us into greater understanding about life, and especially mediumship in this book, in the realms of mediumship. We're going to get to know we're spirits, constantly thinking nonstop, and constantly associating our minds with other minds, and expressing those emotions and thoughts through us that sometimes that are not even ours. Do you recognize it in me as a medium? Because at Camille Flammarion's time, we are learning from mediums that were quite ostensible, like Rosetta. She was one of the instruments through which we got to know that there is more life than the eyes can see, the spiritual realm. But nowadays, more and more people recognize that they also perceive things that are beyond what the five senses can perceive. We feel emotions that are not necessarily ours. We pick up on people's lives more than the eyes can see, and we feel, sometimes at a distance, remotely. People talk about remote vision. You are here physically, and even the United States military armed forces, they use people who are psychics, mediums, or used to do remote viewing to go and do strategic, uh, uh, to have strategic visions. The police uses the FBI, the CIA, but then when it comes to the lay public, people are still stagnant in fear, in doubts, in hesitation, to the point that we have spiritist centers that often have no mediumistic meetings. How come? How can we have spiritist centers without spirits? Not that they are not there, but we're not communicating with them. But Vanessa, I don't know where to begin. We humble ourselves to the simplicity of opening the medium's book, studying together, closing our eyes, trusting in God, trusting the guidance of the spirit directors of every center, because no center begins without the spirit directors who are fully aware of where to go, and trusting their guidance, we keep on marching towards unfolding greater works that will only happen when we surrender to the higher designs that always come first of the spiritual. All the greatest ideas on earth come first from the invisible realm, and we on earth are instruments of the design of the higher minds who are guiding us on earth. When we think about this, we go back to Camille Flammarion. As an astronomer, he taught us about this quest for the things that cannot be seen without instruments. And he learned that even if he had a telescope to see the stars, the planets, we need mediums to see and to talk, through which we talk with the spiritual realm. And then he says that in conversations, I'll give an example. It's one of the stories that I read in a chapter that is titled Experiments and Observations. Camille Flammarion says that such is also the opinion of the electrician Cromwell Varley. Neither he nor Wallace believes that there is anything supernatural in the phenomena. See, he's talking. When you read his book, as if you're sitting down having tea with him, and he's giving great details about the conversation, his experiments, and he says, discarnate spirits are in nature as well as the incarnate. Friends, I'll read more, but look at this. You and I are spirits, and you may say, Vanessa, I know it, but do we feel it? Because often we don't feel like we're spirits. We play in life often as if we're here forever, material beings. And then we're distraught when people discarnate. Like, but don't you cry? Yes and no. I cry saying, oh, this togetherness in this life is over. But I also say, you graduated. We're still together. Our relationship goes on. It's never going to be broken. We're always going to be connected. And there's going to be another time for us to reunite and do great works together. So, we are spirits living on earth. There's even a song we used to sing here at the spirit side of Virginia and spirit side of Baltimore for the children. We say, we are a child of God. We are a child of God. We reincarnated to learn to be good. We are spirits reincarnated to learn to be good. So we need to make an effort. Andrew Lewis in the book Evolution into Worlds, through two mediums, which is the phenomenon yet to be studied in the future by scientists, how two very different mediums, Chico Xavier, who only studied till the fourth grade of elementary school, and another medium, Valdevita, who had two major degrees, one in medicine and another in dentistry. They received messages from the same spirit compiled in the same book when you read the chapters, all the medium chapters. You can't tell who wrote them because they are simply the same in style and ideas, and the cohesion of ideas, the convergence to the topic. And in that book, we learn of all things that we progress, we never regress, and that we only progress through learning, through effort and repetition. So then back to Camille Flammarion. In this chapter, Experiments and Observations, he says, the triviality of the communications ought not to astonish us. If we consider the myriads of trivial and fantastic human beings who every day become ghosts and are the same beings the day after their death that they were the day before. And here he's quoting the conversation by this man, Cromwell Varley, but he's saying something quite important here to us that Camille from Marion shares with us. Do you think that after death we are going to be any different? Because some people say, oh, now they are going to get it. Not necessarily. Go to the book Heaven and Hell after death. In the second part, there are 66 cases of the spirits who communicated through the mediums at Kardec's time. Kardec was asking the questions. They were answering the questions through the mediums. Of these 66 cases, we have happy spirits, spirits who are hardened at the heart, spirits who are suicides, spirits who are criminals, spirits who suffered a lot, and spirits who are just hanging out there, and they were of middle evolution, not happy, they were not super sad, and the spirits keep on being who they are. Some of them, they have been on the same mindset for more than a century. There was a bored spirit who came and said, I'm bored. And Kardec like, why? But did you have family when you reincarnated? And she said, yes. I had a husband, I had children, I had maids, but I was also bored, always bored. She discarnated and she kept on being bored. That's exactly what Flammarion is saying in this quote. They are the same beings the day before their death that they were the day after their death as they were the day before. This woman, she claims, I'm bored. And she says, your questions are boring me. And but were you bored in your incarnation? Yes, I was bored. And people think that when we die, we're gonna change. We're gonna change if we wanna change. If we don't wanna change, we won't change until life pushes us and we have to change. But death doesn't change who we are. I remember when the Spirit started about me, one of our members asked us to be at her son's viewing. He overdosed. He was a teenager, he overdosed, an American woman. More than 15 years ago. And when we saw his body in the coffin, there was so much vitality. You could see he was still connected to the body. Why? Because he committed indirect suicide. By using drugs, overdosing, his body still had a lot of vitality. And because the body is connected to the spiritual body, the perispirit molecule by molecule, when the physical body stops all of a sudden, and there was no time to disengage, as Kardec says in the first chapter of the book Covenant Health, second part, disengage. This is what we call disconnection. When there was no time to disengage this molecule of molecule tie, what happens? We still stay connected. The body died, but the spiritual body still connected. And who is enveloped by this spiritual body? The spirit. So we're feeling that the body is getting cold, that people are touching us. It's creepy, right? It's creepy. And you may be asking, oh my gosh, I don't want to go through this. Me neither. What do? Well, Kardec, as an educator, he published in the Heaven and Hell book, read that chapter. It's about the passage. He titled it The Passage, Chapter 1, Part 2 of the book Heaven and Hell. He says, if, that's a rule of thumb, if my connections between the physical body and the spiritual body are very strong, it's going to be hard to disconnect. And what makes this be very strong? Our attachments. Our attachments to material life. So look around. If you're in your house, oh my gosh, what is in my house? Am I attached to? Oh, I love this pen. Let's say, because it's Kardec Rader's pen. I love it. I'm never going to give it to anybody because it's Kardec Rader's pen. It's my pen. No, you can use any pen, but not this one. I discarnate, the pen stays, but there is a fluidic link connected from this pen to me. It complicates my discarnation. It anchors me. But it's not only about that type of attachment. My bank account, my house, my car, my dog, my clothes. It's also about those attachments, like family attachments. Go to Andrea Louis' book, um, named, forgive me because I'm getting the name in my head, Between Heaven and Earth. probably. If I'm mistaken, those who know, let me know. There is the case of a man who is a spiritist, but his family is not a spiritist. He never spent time explaining things to them, preparing them. So when he discarnates, he's about to discarnate, his wife, who is truly connected to him and he didn't prepare her well for that, is complicating the process. So the good spirits, because of his merit, they take they find a way to take her away and the other family so the good spirits can disengage his spiritual body from the physical body, facilitating the process of discarnation. It's the death of Demas, the discarnation of Demas, actually. So, Camille Flammarion, when he's publishing here this quote by somebody who was talking is that we don't change in the afterlife just because we die. We keep on being who we are. So if you say, I want to know news from my family member, but it's quite easy to know where they're going to be. Were they loving and caring? Were they selfless? Certainly they are. And I'm going to say this quote unquote figuratively with the angels, meaning they are in higher spheres. Why? Because they already learned lessons on earth. But if they were truly materialistic, selfish, egotistic, where are they? The same place where they were in that mindset of selfishness. Then Camille Flammarion says, Professor Morgan, the brilliant author of the book Budget of Paradoxes, expresses the same opinion in his work on mind. It's a British professor. Not only does he think that the facts are incontestable, but he also believes that the hypothesis that explains the facts by intelligences exterior to ourselves is the only satisfying one. He relates, among other things, that in one of the seances attended by him, a friend of his, a very skeptical person, was making a little fun of the spirits while they were all standing around the dining room table and forming the chain above it without contact. The heavy table began to move of its own accord, and dragging along the whole group, made a rush at the skeptic and pinned him against the back of the sofa until he cried, Hold, enough. You see, Camille Flammarion is sharing with you and I because these books are immortalizing his ways of thinking, observing the experiments, sharing with us that the minds of the beyond are with us. And you may be asking, as Camille Flammarion talks about the experiments, people's experience, what kind of spirits are around us again, Vanessa? Well, believe it or not, Kardec talked about it in the Medium's book, and he says, and in the spiritual book, we have also this statement. Four types of spirits are with us. Four types. One, superior spirits. No matter who we are, criminals or not, we always have superior spirits connected to us who love us unconditionally, who are guiding us, protecting us, who are doing their best to guide us to the next level of our evolution. That's one type of spirit. Not necessarily one spirit, but one type, one category. Two, another one, spirits who are familiar with us. They've had experience with us in previous lives or not. These type of spirits, they may like us. They may not like necessarily the people who are with us. And if they may be more evolved than us, less evolved than us, or as evolved as we are, but we have history together. Three, spirits who sympathize with us, who have similar affinities. So they may be, if I like soccer, they may like soccer. If I like porn, they like porn. If I like eating, they like eating. Oh, I remember, and Elsa Rossi is here with us, my dear friend. I love her so dearly. I admire her so dearly for her incessant works of the good. And I remember when she invited us to be with Dr. Marlene Novi and other wonderful spiritists, scientists, physicians, therapists in London. It was the year 2011, if I'm not mistaken, at a British Union of Medical Spiritists meeting, the British Medical Spiritists Association. So then we had the dinner later. We came to a restaurant. There was a long table. We were sitting in a separate place because of the length of the table. And I remember while we were waiting for the food, I saw the other tables in front of us, tables where couples would sit. And in our mediumship, Mentor Joseph came and said, Vanessa, observe this phenomenon. Look at that couple. You see the spirits who are sucking their vitality? And I saw from the chair, as if there was an apparatus connected to the chair, through which these spirits were sucking their vitality. And I asked for Mentor Joseph, why? Look, they're drinking. They are not very elevated in their intentions. And I said, but is it always like that? What if somebody else sits at the table? And he said, Vanessa, it's not by chance. You see the next couple when they leave. We were there for a while because we were exchanging impressions, ideas, and then that couple left, and another came. And believe it or not, the woman sat at that chair like the other woman, and the man on the other chair. And I saw the same phenomenon. Why? If you go to a restaurant to indulge in drinking, in eating, even connection, and there are spirits who have nothing else to do but to suck our energies. They are vampire spirits. You want to know more about vampire attitude? Go to the books Liberation by André Luiz and the book Non Solar by André Luiz. And we get to know of this type of attitude that we may have as discarnate or incarnate spirits. Well, we went beyond this. Let's go back to a little more of the fascinating sharing of experiments and observations by Camille Flammarion. He says, still, does this constitute the proof of an independent spirit? He asks. A good scientist is marked by wonderful questions. Listen to Flammarion's questions. He says, was it not an expression of the collective thought of the company? So, was it just a group that was in that mindset, creating the phenomenon of the table that pressed them in, who was skeptical against the book? And likewise, in the experience which Wallace has just cited, were not the dictated names latent in the brains of the questionnaire? And was not the little center table in its climbings acting under the physical and psychical influences of the medium? Whatever may be the explanatory hypothesis, the facts are undeniable. We have here before all, and then he starts explaining. So he is sharing his observations and experiments, and he's showing to us his rational mind. But I remember in 2002, when we were visiting, 21 years ago, we were giving a talk in a Spiritist center in San Diego, California. And at the end of this meeting, this American man came to me and asked, Vanessa, I want to do a Kardec fit. And I asked him, why? Because I want to do the same experience. And I said, why? Because I want to start from scratch. Well, but we scientists don't do this. When something is proved, we go to the next question. Kardec, Camille Flammarion, Leondin, let's say, let's talk about the ones who researched first and foremost. Camille Flammarion, Charles Richer. We have many men and women, like William James in the United States, with Leonard Pfeiffer, Kardec, many around the world. I'm not going to be fair if I just say a few names, but just for the sake of it, let's keep it at this. They did the foundation. Huh? Where are we today? Do we need to start from scratch? To tell you the truth scientifically, we can't. Why? Because today we have enough electronics that would block us from doing a research that would be unbiased. Recently, last year, at Cardiac Radio, we talked to Dr. Gary Schwartz, a scientist like William James, like Camille Flammarion. Here at the University of Arizona, he's one of the few authorities in the world nowadays doing research about the beyond, and he's using electronics. But I agree with him. You need a very systematic study, a very tight protocol to make sure that we're not receiving influences from all the other electronics that exist around the world. It's a very difficult research. So you may ask, what do we do with mediumship, Vanessa? As we're coming to almost a wrap up for possible questions and comments with me, Gariba and you, feel free to ask questions here, to share your thoughts. Um, where are we now with mediumship? We're not at ground zero, okay? So as much as we appreciate listening from Camille Flammarion, he comes to us to say, look, we've been there, done that. We already know that spirits exist. The question is, what do we do with it? Mental illness is escalating in the world. Why? Because we're not alone. We need to know what to do with our mediumship to become mentally healthy. We need to produce good works. We need to learn how to use mediumship for the good without charging anything because we receive it for free. We need to give it for free, says the gospel according to Spiritism. And our rational mind agrees with it. So, where are we today? If we talk to Camille Flammarion and say, thank you, Camille Flammarion, you show to us that you walked this path with other minds next to you, agreeing at the end of the day that these mysterious psychic forces are no longer mysterious. They are clearly an event of nature. We're spirits, we keep on living, we interact with one another, and the spiritist science comes to us and says, let's use it wisely for our evolution. Let's use it wisely to benefit one another, to diminish mental illness on earth. So we learn to get to a new level of what we call spiritual discipline, learning to think correctly, learning to feel correctly, learning to speak correctly, learning to do things in the right direction, knowing that when we are in this partnership with the good spirits, we can expedite our evolution. I will never forget a Kardec reading in 2011 when Kardec Radio began on July 4th at 12 p.m. He said, if people read these books, and he considers Kardec a genius, and we would say, oh, if he could just read Camille Flammarion, right? Friend of Kardec, we would see a group of genius minds who open a new era on earth, the era of the spirit, and who await from us, as Dr. Schwartz said, we can expedite the advancements of science and the advancement of humanity when we just surrender to the fact that we are spirits and we can do partnership with the spirits as well. So Camille Flammarion comes in this book to remind us we're spirits, we keep on being spirits, and we can interact with other minds to facilitate our mutual promise. We're going to stop here for questions and comments that you may have.
Dr. Anseloni, thank you so much. We now open for questions. And while we wait for them, I just want to say hello to Elsa Hossi, our dear friend Elsa Hossi. She's actually in a part of this work, so we're very grateful to her. Our dear friend Solomon, and also Danielle Hossi. It's interesting that at the very beginning of this book, Flammarion, he says that mediumistic experiences might form a chapter in physics. So he starts to see that, yes, we can explore the spiritual world from different aspects. Physical phenomena related to, the spiritual world, of course, the psychic phenomena, and so many others. So I found that really, really interesting that
What a
he,
mind who knew,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
mean, not only he is courageous, but he's so rational. And you know, Munir, when I read this, the passages he's saying, I said, when people come to me and say, oh, my husband is so rational, my son is so rational that they can't believe these things. And I say, I think if they were rational, they would understand, not believe,
yeah,
but they would understand these things, right?
yeah. And it's interesting because I usually say that knowledge per se is not much unless we make sense of that. We make use of that. We take this knowledge, and you mentioned rational. If we're really rational, we go to a point, learn what we have to learn, and apply that to life. But people, they judge things as if they were behind a glass. The world is outside their perception of the world, their opinions, their ideas, and they just stay there, but nothing changes. If we believe in spirits, we should live according to that belief. What does it mean? And it's interesting because in Kardec's works, we see, many times the Spirit saying, and you mentioned that very wisely, that we are surrounded by a multitude of spirits. We may not call the attention, to all of them. We call the attention to those who agree and are tuned to what we are thinking and doing. But we are always surrounded by a multitude of witnesses, as sometimes the spirits they say. Witness to our actions, witnesses to our thoughts. And so, if we know that, do we take that in our daily life to change, how we think, how we behave, to discipline ourselves?
Yeah. And I can almost imagine when you talk about discipline, for somebody at Camille Flammarion's stature, if people just knew who we're talking about, somebody who began the French Association of Astronomy, who was so influential in science, who was one of the most brilliant minds in science, who realizes that life is much more than the eyes can see literally, and his recommendations and his discipline to register everything and to share with us. It shows also his humility and his solidarity with us, right? But he was so disciplined to write it all down, sharing the quotes of the people we talked to, the events, the phenomenon, and discussing with us, pondering with us about the causes of it all, bringing us together to the realization that we really need to take this life to another level, to a deeper level, to reach the happiness that we're looking for. And his discipline in doing it all and sharing with us shows the, I think, the magnitude of his spiritual being.
Yes, he was so concerned in sharing his findings, his learning, and with people that on both fronts, astronomy and you know uh, um, the reality of the spirits, he wrote for people in general. He turned astronomy into something popular. He, in my view, is the father of popular astronomy. What's so common nowadays. And you know buy your kits and then watch because there's a comet in Earth's neighborhood, or we can watch an eclipse or something. So he started that, taking that from the academy to people in general, and I think he did the same job regarding the reality of the spirit world. Knowing the work of Kardec, exploring, using his brilliant mind to you know extend that a bit further and bring to people. That was wonderful, beautiful work. We also have here with us our dear friend Balahi, and I put a comment by Elsa here. Flammarion was compromised with Kardec before his incarnation. So young, so rational, so confident, and the Maître Kardec, our Master Kardec, noticed instantaneously. Wonderful. Yeah. We also have here with us, when we want to say hello, Spiritual Mad.
There's
So,
much more, right, for us
yeah,
to learn about Camille Flammarion.
yes. And thank you very much for your work of compiling this beautiful this masterpiece of Camille Flammarion, yet another one, and bringing Kardec together with that, because he started from Kardec and kept Kardec as his side all the time, and we bring you a flavor here, so to get people interested in reading more. I've got a hold of a copy, was published in 1907, of this book. It's an old one, but very pleasant to read. It's free on the internet. I think, yeah, it was a library, a copy that was made available to people. And so, for those who are interested, just search for the title. You'll find this book in English. So I think it's time for our announcements. And quickly, I just want to announce our next talk, episode number 4. Our dear friend Roberto Watanabe is the president of the Spiritist Federation of the state of São Paulo in Brazil. He'll be with us talking about the book God in Nature. He'll be talking about parts 1 and 2 out of 5 divided in this book. So he'll be talking about 1 and 2. That will be next month on the 7th of April, first Sunday of April, 7 p.m. London time, UK time. And so we have Roberto here with us. I just want to announce also the Spiritist Center for Peace holds the study of the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec, and also the Gospel According to Spiritism. Every Wednesday, 12 noon, London time. You're most welcome to join us. You can find the Zoom link here and also the password 1234. So very welcome to join us in this study. And on Saturdays, Bus organizes a online course on the Mediums book, 10:30 a.m. Saturdays. It's coordinated by Guilherme Dias, Charles Kemp, and myself. So again, most welcome to join us in this study. And also again, our thanks to Kardec Radio for letting us use the studio. Since we have no more questions here or comments, I want to thank you, Vanessa, once again for your brilliant presentation, for the time you took to digest the work and bring to us in such a nice way. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. And I just want to quote one quick thing about Camille Flammarion, that he
Sure.
almost ends the book and says something that is quite fascinating for all of us. Human nature, and he says one more word before closing, and I'll quote him saying the same. One more word before closing. Human nature is endowed with faculties as yet little explored. There you go. Let's
Yeah.
find out, friends, right? About our potentialities and faculties.
Yes.
Thank
Wise final words. Thank you so
you.
much. So see you all. Thank you for being with us, and see you all in a month's time on the 7th of April. For now, bye bye.